What is up, guys, and welcome to a Browns Week 9 preview against the Denver Broncos. And this week is a must-win for the Cleveland Browns. It's a must-win for the Denver Broncos. It's a must-win for everybody involved. So expect this to be a very intense game. And on the surface, this does look like a game the Browns should win and have to win. But if we dig a little bit deeper, the Denver Broncos do have one of the best defenses in the NFL, if not the best defense that is not on a undefeated team. So the Browns are going to have a handful on the offensive side of the ball, but with the Broncos starting a backup quarterback, things look to go positive for the Cleveland Browns. But let's talk about this matchup and break this down even further. All right, so we're going to start this like we always do with the key matchups. And the first key matchup is going to be the Denver Broncos run game versus the Browns' inconsistent defensive line play. The Browns, on paper, should be excellent at stopping the run. The Browns have been decent at stopping the run, although they have posted very pedestrian numbers throughout the year. It's just one of those weird things that the Browns seem to not be able to get a consistent handle on, and that's kind of been the MO for the whole year. This team has lacked consistency. They have showed flashes, but they have not been consistent, and it is no different on the defensive side of the ball. Myles Garrett, while he has had a ton of production, his production has seemed to come in inconsistent moments in the game. Sheldon Richardson has been either really decent to bad. Larry Ogunjobi has not made the impact that he did last year, and Olivier Vernon had his best game last week against the Patriots, but before then was underperforming even Emmanuel Ogbah. So while these guys have the potential to stop the run every week, they don't always full up to that potential, and that is what you can worry about if you're the Browns game. Now, the Broncos offense is terrible. They average 15.6 points a game, which is awful. And that offense that was not able to score does not have their starting quarterback, and is starting Brandon Allen, who has not played in an NFL game. So, I mean, it's a good thing for Denver that there's not tape on him, but, you know, it's like his third year in the league, and he's not started a game, so that's also not a good position to be in. Now, the second matchup that is interesting is, will Von Miller wake up against a Browns offensive line that has given up a ton of sacks? The Browns gave up 5 sacks last week in New England. Von Miller, I think he only has 4 sacks right now in the season, so he's underperformed mightily, and he has not had his running mate for the bulk of the season in Bradley Chubb since he's been out with the ACL injury for the season. So is Von Miller aging? Is he not the same guy? I don't know. He had his best game last week, 1.5 sacks, a good amount of run stuffs. So he has been solid in his last outing. So is that a sign of things to come, or was it just one good game? You never know with Von Miller, but it's always good to bet the upside there with him. But Von Miller, you know, he has been a non-factor in the run game so far this season, which has been an issue for the Denver Broncos, as they've given up a lot of rushing yards this year, and that is where they're weak. They have a good, strong pass defense. Their run defense, not as strong, which matches up with the Browns pretty well, as the Browns can run the ball. They have been suspect at passing the ball so far in the season, but they can run that ball. Now we're just going to jump into the third matchup because I already mentioned is the Browns offense versus a good Broncos defense. And yes, the Broncos defense has been, I don't want to say dominant, but statistically they've been pretty good. They rank pretty high in DVOA, but this might be one of those cases where DVOA might be telling you that this defense is a little bit better than they might actually be, because their defense has not really been able to take over a game and impact a game in that way this season. And again, they have been a liability in the run game, and it's cost them a lot of games. So while the offense has done them no favors, I really don't think this defense is as good as it's been built up to be, and does have some weaknesses, particularly in stopping the run that can be exploited by the Browns. And the last matchup is going to be Odell Beckham Jr. versus Chris Harris. Now, there's been no shortage of talk about Odell Beckham and the lack of targets or the lack of yards in production that he's had this season compared to seasons that he's had in the past. And for Odell, this might be an opportunity for him to kind of get his juice back against Chris Harris Jr., who is a very good corner, but a corner who could be beat by Odell. I don't think he's a shutdown guy that is going to be able to just take care of Odell on his own. And the secondary is kind of banged up for the Denver Broncos as well. They're going to be missing some players on that secondary. So I would expect that matchup to be interesting. If the Browns do decide to throw the ball at any point, Odell Beckham versus Chris Harris, it's going to be an interesting matchup to watch. Now let's look at the injury report for the game, some key inactives. And for the Browns, it's going to be Demarius Randall, who's going to be out, Eric Murray, who's going to be out, Farrell Brown, who's going to be out. All three of those guys are out, confirmed by the team. Demarius and Eric Murray being out is significant because those are two safeties, and that's going to cut a lot of your depth at safety. So we're probably looking at Jermaine Whitehead stepping in there, and maybe one of the corners, maybe TJ Carey jumping in there at free safety to take that spot. And then for the Broncos, we know Joe Flacco is going to be out. More than likely Will Parks and Bryce Calhoun is going to be out as well. So again, some key injuries there for both teams. For the Browns, I do worry about Farrell Brown also, just because that does leave the Browns with one less tight end in a week where you're going to want to run the ball a lot, and that's going to have an effect on the game a little bit there. More of an effect than you would assume not having Farrell Brown would make on the game. All right, now let's look at the biggest weakness for each team. And for the Denver Broncos, it's offensive production. That's been the Achilles heel of this team, a defense that's played well enough for the team to win. While they haven't necessarily won their team a lot of games, they have been able to keep their team in a lot of games. But Joe Flacco at the helm of this offense has not been able to convert. Brandon Allen now starting in place of Joe Flacco, who you would assume, since he's Joe's backup, did not play better than Joe Flacco. So that is going to be a huge hurdle for this Broncos team to hold up to. Is the Browns defense is pretty good, and they're starting a first-year quarterback, and they already had a lot of issues scoring the ball and moving the ball. Before that, now starting quarterback, no Emmanuel Sanders anymore since they traded him. Uphill battle offensively for the Denver Broncos. Then for the Browns, the biggest problem for the Browns is the Cleveland Browns. Overall consistency, not getting in their own way, not getting too cute, not trying to do too much at critical times. Sometimes when I watch the Browns, I really just wish they would just simplify things and just play football, because it doesn't seem like they're playing football. It looks like they're trying too hard to think about playing football at times. And that's what drives me crazy about this team, is that if they just slowed things down, simplified things, and boiled things down to the basics, they have good enough players to just go out and play football. They don't have to get cute. You have to get cute when you're starting a fourth-string wide receiver as your number one receiver. That's when you have to get cute with things. When you have Odell Beckham, you don't have to get cute. The Browns have to stop with this obsession of trying to do way too much, or trying to get way too creative, or way too, cute with things, when they could easily just play football and win football games, because that is why you have the talent on hand. So hopefully the Browns can have a renewed sense of confidence coming into this game. Hopefully the Browns can get back to just simply playing football and keeping it simple. All right, now we're going to jump into win criteria for each team. And for the Denver Broncos, it's going to be a list of things, starting with score more than 28 points, which is a tall task for a defense, for an offense that has not averaged over 15 and a half points this season with the backup quarterback. Yes, that is going to be a tough ask for the Denver Broncos, but the way they can get that is if they get Philip Lindsay going in the run game, get him over 100 yards, get him a ton of touches, and get this ball rolling with him and use him to punch the ball in and score points. That is going to be one of their main hopes. The other hope they have to have is they have to have Von Miller, be disruptive in the run game, be disruptive when the Browns try to drop back and pass. Von Miller has to be Von Miller in order for the Denver Broncos to win. If he's not Von Miller, it's going to be a very hard game for the Broncos to win. It's really that simple. And then the last thing is they have to force the Browns to turn the ball over, play sloppy, and win the field position game. They have to play the kind of grind them out type of football with the Browns. They have to slow down what the Browns can do well offensively once they get the ground game going. And they have to force turnovers. If you force turnovers, you're able to run the ball, you're able to score more, and that's going to make their path easier to beat the Browns. Now, for the Browns, their win criteria is that they're just going to have to run the ball with Chubb over 30 times. Just like New England, I feel like the game plan, they tried to stick with it at the beginning, but Nick Chubb had the 2 fumbles, so that put the team not only behind in the scoreboard, but also, belittled the trust that they had in him in that game. And, they ended up having to abandon that game plan. But this week, get the ball to Chubb again, let Chubb do his thing and run that ball all up and down the field. And I think the Browns will have success because that would mean they would limit turnovers. And on the other side of the ball, they have to pressure Brandon Allen, get to him more than 3 times, make him feel that pressure, make him feel Myles Garrett, make him skittish in the pocket, and take advantage of the fact that this guy has not played a lot of NFL football. And then the last thing is they're going to have to hold Philip Lindsay under 100 yards. If they stop the run game, make them rely on a passing game that has been suspect the entire season, then the Browns are in a very favorable position to win this game because I do believe they're going to be able to run the ball to score points on the Denver Broncos. So what's my prediction? What's my final take with this game? I think this is a game that the Browns really, really need to win and really need to win convincingly in order to get some confidence for the run that they have to make in order to make the playoffs. The Browns probably have to go undefeated in the month of November. And honestly, it's not even just probably. It is more than likely they have to go undefeated in the month of November. And that means beating some good teams. The Denver Broncos have a good defense. The Buffalo Bills have a good defense and a winning record. The Pittsburgh Steelers have one of the best defenses in the NFL. And then the Miami Dolphins are there. But, the Miami Dolphins are a team that can sneak up and play a closer game than you would expect with you, as they've proven with games like Pittsburgh. So the Browns are going to have to be focused. They're going to have some confidence going. They're going to have to gain some momentum here for this month, and they're going to have to start here in Denver by having a good performance and a convincing performance on the road. And that's what I'm going to predict is going to happen. I think the Browns are going to be able to get the ground game going. Then after that, they're going to be able to have the passing game reflect off of that. I think OBJ is going to have a multiple touchdown day. And I think the Browns are going to win this game 35-10. Now, is that an optimistic view of it? Yeah, but I also feel like the Browns are going to be able to force a lot of 3-and-outs and force some turnovers to get the ball more into the hands of Nick Chubb. And I think once you get the ball going with Nick Chubb, a lot of the offense starts to open up. And I think that's going to allow Baker to look really good. It's going to allow Odell to finally get some of these numbers that he would like. It's going to allow Jarvis to get open. It's going to open up the offense mightily. And I think that's what I would expect to happen this Sunday. But let me know in the comment section down below what your prediction of the game is going to be. Who do you think is going to win? And do you think that the month of November is a must-win month for the Cleveland Browns? I do. I think if you take a loss in this month, you probably aren't going to make the playoffs, one, and that could be the death knell in the whole Freddie Kitchens experiment already, which sounds crazy to say. But, again, it depends on how that loss would happen, but I think really for the Browns to have any chance in making the playoffs, any hope, they have to go undefeated in the month of November. So this is a must-win month, must-win game this week. And I think the Browns are going to show up and play a much more disciplined, much better game of football here. Let me know your answer to that down in the comment section down below. But thank you guys for watching. If you like what I do here, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, ding that notification bell so you can be notified when I upload. And if you want to help the show out financially, you could join the Patreon, give me a couple dollars. That would be awesome. Or you can have, and you would have your name added to this nice little ticker that I have at the bottom of the bar, or you could buy some merch. Either way is greatly appreciated, and I am thankful for whatever you choose to do. But thank you guys for watching. Have a great day. Have a good night.